It's the 7th day of March, 2025. Coming up on today's Global Intelligence Agency Operations Report. Things are heating up again in the Middle East, and this time it's private military group Wagner on behalf of the Russian elite arming Syrians. The crypto president is trying hard to live up to his name by attempting to form a crypto strategic reserve. But it seems there's a little glitch in their plan. And it appears no trumpets sounded after time stood still in the heavens last Saturday, but yet the elites are still promising their bloodlines redemption. Well, it's the 7th of March, 2025. However, ladies, if you are watching this, you might want to get your leg warmers out. And guys, don't be afraid to get your mullet on because it's 1980 again. Maybe not 1980. We're probably about mid-1980s with all of the stuff that's going on in the world. You know, I'm pretty sure that the people that are trying to run this world are repeating operations that they thought they personally were successful in many years ago. But apparently not. I'm either that or they're just so old they are trying to relive their glory days. I'm not really sure. So let's start with some regular news. Let's just say real world news and a little bit of backstory on what's really going on here. So apparently today, I think it was today, might have been yesterday, Trump decided to suspend all aid to South Africa due to anti-white racism. If you are from South Africa and you are listening to this, you probably think this is kind of funny. So if you don't know and you haven't been watching news, so to speak, from around the world, there has been a little bit of an uptick over a new law that allegedly is about to be or has been passed by President Ramaphosa. I always say that wrong. Ramaphosa, for those of you that don't know, is a CIA asset. 100% has been, even long before he was president, done a lot of things or business down there in South Africa, and I can definitely tell you that is beyond a shadow of a doubt, based on my assets there and my resources there, that is true. So what is really going on then? So if the president is an American asset, apparently Trump is deciding to suspend aid, which there is no aid. Maybe the Americans sent aids to Africa, but I don't think they've sent any aid to South Africa in a long time. But allegedly they're going to suspend it anyway. You know, hopefully they're also going to suspend sending vaccines and everything else to South Africa. But let's see what happens. So this new law that is being passed or been passed there is regarding land disputes over properties that were seized during the apartheid system back in the 1980s. So for those of you that are from South Africa, and I'm pretty sure I'm getting most of this stuff right, during the 1980s, there was definitely some land grabbing going on there. There was the introduction in the 1970s of the Anglo-American company, which is run by or was run by Bush Sr. And there was a lot of resource grabbing by the Anglo-American company in South Africa during that time. They used apartheid to probably get them there, for sure. Also, the DuPonts have quite a bit of companies, resources, and lots of business now in South Africa since the apartheid. So allegedly, according to the news and government, there has been no land seized as of yet. Supposedly, also, some Trump supporters who are part of the white population of South Africa showed up at the U.S. Embassy there saying, Trump, we love you. Trump, we love you. We need your support. And so there it is. In reality, not so much so. Are they looking to give land that was seized by alleged white folk, or in this case, Anglo-American and the DuPonts and the rest of the Americans that went down there, back to the African or Black population of South Africa? No, definitely not. Are they looking to probably seize more land on behalf of Americans, whether they are Black or white? Yes. I do know that there are some donors that have lost a lot of influence that are Americans in South Africa as of late, I would say the last several years, due to the Chinese influence in the BRICS influence there in South Africa. And they are looking to reclaim their businesses and properties. There is also a lot of arguments going on behind the scenes over the Kimberley mines there in South Africa. I know that their contracts have expired. I also know that there used to be plane loads of gold that would leave South Africa on the daily. A lot of it came across the border from Zimbabwe, some of it still from South Africa and Lesotho there in the country. Lesotho is a small landlocked country in South Africa and in that area. And they are not getting paid anymore like they used to. They used to fill up hedge funds at some of the larger banks there. I think it's called Barclays now. It used to be called Absa Bank and First National Bank as well, were big banks there where they would have hedge funds for the tribes, including the Zulus, that would receive large sums of money to basically send gold out to Germany and other places in the world. Also, there has been quite a bit of pilfering of rare earth minerals from neighboring countries such as Mozambique recently, and a lot of that had been going to Jordan. For those of you that don't know, Jordan is run by the Rothschild family. That the royal family there is of Rothschild descent, distant cousins, or I think the wife has more Rothschild blood allegedly than the king does. But nonetheless, they have been going out through there and then onward to, in some cases, American companies. So this is all, an orchestration of the Trump administration. So are they avoiding a bill? That would be a question. Because I know about the rare earth minerals and I know about the donors, campaign donors that are very upset right now. And it looks like they'd like to start the apartheid system all over again over there. Is history going to repeat itself? I highly doubt it. Is Ramaphosa going to go with the Americans, or is he going to go with the Chinese? Or, well, God forbid anybody goes it alone. But one thing for sure is South Africa is kind of caught right now in a fight between two different factions that would like to be the lead council on the New World Order, so to speak, council of the 9 jurisdictions. Remember, the 10th jurisdiction is the World Council. So that is definitely being held over Ramaphosa's head right now. If he wants that seat on that council, he's going to play ball. Unfortunately, right now the fight to head up the 10th jurisdiction amongst the elites, because it really isn't a fight that there is no, it's kind of like fighting to be the CEO of Enron at this point. The Americans want it and the Chinese want it, and now they're fighting, and South Africa is the kids in the divorce, basically. So hopefully things will calm down there a little bit more. I don't see anything really moving towards what either party wants, But I know that the Americans want control there, and the Americans, and so do the Chinese. So either way, it's Rothschild for the win. For those of you that don't know, their population, they're saying that it's a minority population. There's probably close to 10% of the population of South Africa. I know statistics say around 7% that are white. A lot of them are descendants of people that have been there for hundreds of years. The Dutch have been there for a long time. There are many, many people, in South Africa that I guess you could say they're minority, but, by saying they're the minority, and I paused for a minute there because I'm trying to say this correctly. By saying white people are a minority in South Africa, I mean, technically, statistically speaking, that's true. But for a lot of years, let's just say the elites have been driving a lot of the business there, therefore installed their own folks there as part of the leaders or the hidden elite oligarchs of South Africa, however you want to say it. And to be fair, there's a lot to be said for the long history there in South Africa. But this here is basically an attempt. So if you are in South Africa, just so you know what's really going on behind the scenes, this is really an attempt for an American grab versus the Chinese grab that has been going on there for a long, long time. There's the other little spin on this too, as it relates to South Africa, because again, we're back in the 1980s, and I'm sure you've grabbed your cup of tea and your leg warmers and you're all ready for it now. If not, you probably should, because it looks like the elite, so to speak, or the Trump operatives are trying to start a Cold War with Russia again as well. So if you haven't sang 99 Luft balloons in a long time, now might be a good time, because apparently the U.S. is going to move troops from Germany. Apparently there's no wall there to fight over anymore, so maybe they're now going to move troops allegedly to Eastern Europe. They don't actually say where. But this has nothing to do, and I want to make this abundantly clear, this has nothing to do with the Zelensky fiasco. So there was a deal actually cut behind the scenes between Vice President Vance and Zelensky during his visit. Apparently the Ukrainians are very upset about not being able to cash in their Trump bucks and not getting paid and never receiving the aid underneath the Biden administration. But never fear. The promises run deep, and they will continue not to deliver for approximately the next almost 4 years now. So we're only a couple months into this fiasco there. But on the other hand, their visit to Russia, even though their weird ceremony over in the Kolyma Gulag didn't work out, wasn't exactly not fruitful, because there were a lot of negotiations and talks going on between the Russians and the Americans during that visit. There were talks about territories. See, when the Americans, especially Trump operatives, go have negotiations with people like the Russians and the oligarchs of Russia, they aren't just talking about the war and where we want peace, and no one talks about that really. Remember, the Trump operatives are there representing the Rothschild family and the Order of the Dragon, because that's their boss, apparently. So they were negotiating things like territories. And by negotiating territories, for those of you that don't know, most of the world would be split up between the majority holders of the New World Council that they'd like to install, and the Middle East is no exception. So during their talks and their negotiations, the Russians may not be able to take over Ukraine fully again, I guess. Not like they ever left. I'm not really sure what that was all about. But they have been promised that they could have Syria back. Now, Rothschild, and specifically Mayor Rothschild, had promised to split up the Middle East as follows. The Americans would be granted ownership over Iraq. That's why apparently some of the representatives in the House are saying MEGA now. Instead of MAGA, it's MEGA, make Iraq great again. So this is why. Syria, as you know, currently they have a new regime, which is American. Because remember, the Americans were hell-bent on taking over all of the political sector of the world, and Syria was no exception. That was part of the coup that happened there not too long ago. So the new regime there is American. I know that they'll say he's not, and even some of the intel officers there have told me that I'm wrong, that is not the case, but it is 100% the case. And after they go digging and digging and digging deep, they find out that's who that is. Now, recently, within the last 24 to 48 hours, they have the Russians, I'm sorry, it's been a long day, guys. The Russians have sent Wagner Group. If you don't know who Wagner Group is, they are a private military group, predominantly Russian-owned, and they are likened to the American version of Blackwater. So they are the Russian version of Blackwater over there, Wagner Group is. They are not only Russians, they are full of some Americans and others as well. This is a cooperative effort. Let us not forget that the world is one world. It is not split up when you get to the elite level of this planet, nor in politics. So this is all a show. So Wagner Group drops off a load of cash from the oligarchs and a bunch of weapons and promises support to the old rebels that supported the Assad regime. Now, the Assad regime was all in on the plan and the Russian ownership of Syria, the building or at the time, I should say, the building of the Russian base there in Syria. We know that this at the time was very fruitful because it was a large SSP base and a large sector, if not the largest portal system in the world, was underneath Syria and that whole region right there, as we have talked about before. So the Russians, when they took over Crimea, they had a different portal system that is no longer functioning, and Syria was a different system that is also no longer functioning. But still, they would like to have their pieces of property that were promised to them by the Rothschild family long ago. So in some cases, you could say there's been a splitting up of the world and a renegotiation of property ownership of various alleged soon-to-be leaders of the New World Council. So things have gotten a little hot and heavy in Syria. The Assad folks or supporters or Russian supporters, whether they know it or not, have definitely started firing. There have been some issues with the current regime and civilians taking up arms and attacking civilians who have been previously offered amnesty, who are no longer supporting the Assad regime after the coup was over. But now they think they might do that again, apparently, and they have been attacking their homes. So it's gotten pretty hot and heavy there. Did anybody get what they were promised? They were told to hold the line for 24 hours yesterday. This is the Assad group that are being backed by Wagner and the Russians. They were told to hold the line for 24 hours and additional aid would come. Well, that 24-hour time brings us to today, and, of course, it's Friday, so today is alleged payday. That didn't work out. So there's definitely getting hot and heavy. It's looking like they are going to try to orchestrate another Cold War. It looks with Russia, at least in the face front. It looks like they are going to try to start apartheid again in South Africa. Oh, it's terrible. Really, it is. And definitely starting to heat up things a little further in the Middle East. What happened in today's meetings? Well, no one got paid. This time, for the first time in a long time, they haven't actually promised a new day. They said that they were working on it. They apparently had people taking notes on some phone calls that I had been on, and they're trying to claim that everything I'm doing to further the Golden Age AI system is, everything they're doing, and they're working on it, and they're going to be successful very soon. They're telling everybody, just be patient, and, we'll get there, that kind of thing. So, yeah, the meetings this morning didn't go very well. Therefore, yeah, it's a little bit hot still in Syria, but we expect things to cool down a little bit. Of course, South Africa is getting no aid still from the Americans because they haven't before and they're not now. Do I think that this is going to continue in South Africa? They are going to keep pushing Ramaphosa. I know that for sure. Hopefully, word will get out of what's really going on there, and people will start to see things a little differently. Let's hope, because it's more about the citizens of South Africa. It's not about the Anglo-American company or the DuPonts or those that have donated millions of dollars to the Trump campaign, just saying that really happened. It's really about the people. And it's the same thing with Syria and what the Russians are trying to do versus the Americans. But that was a deal actually cut. So this is not going to be a surprise. I know that recently also the Trump administration has been saying they're going to put severe sanctions on Russia, very hard banking sanctions. He said bigly, probably hugely sanctions or bigly sanctions, whatever he would call them. And banking sanctions and also some kind of economic sanctions, not specific, against Russia if they don't stop, I guess, doing something in Ukraine, the war, I guess. I don't know. Who knows? For those of you, just to give you a little bit of a brief on sanctions, and I've talked about them before. Now, the U.S. government only has the right to sanction companies. Maybe I should just not do this report. They only have the right to sanction countries or individuals or companies from the utilization of the U.S. dollar. They do not have the right to sanction, say, the ruble, or they don't have the right to technically sanction the sale of oil and gas. The only thing they can do is stop Russia from selling oil and gas in U.S. dollars. That's it. So if they were to place quote unquote sanctions on Russians, that's how they would do it. Now, in the banking sector, could they stop Russians from banking in American banks? Well, if they're holding U.S. dollars there, possibly. But again, it's only U.S. dollar sanctions. Could the Russians hold euro, say, in Bank of America? Yes, they can. So unless they get their European partners or their British partners or everybody at the party to sanction the Russians, there's a lot of other currencies out there. It's not going to hurt Russian business in any way, shape, or form. And again, it's all a show anyway. It's meant to make these people, well, I guess in the face of the Americans in the world, look like they're really doing something. But in reality, they're really not doing anything, except for trying to repeat operations from the 1980s that they thought they ran, but they didn't. They were still always run by someone much higher than they have ever been as far as rank and file in the world. And that party that designed all of that would have been Marduk at the time. So, okay, continuing on with crazy things that are happening in the world in the last couple of days. I mean, really, it's been 2 days since I've talked to you, and there's so much going on. Okay, the crypto president. Let's go back to crypto here for a minute. So the crypto president allegedly signs or unveils the idea that they are going to form a strategic reserve, crypto strategic reserve. It's going to be held at the Treasury Department. This is what's coming out in the news. Now, behind the scenes, there were meetings between some large crypto platforms in the White House yesterday. The conversation kind of went like this. So they would like to pool together all of their platforms and their platform assets, which means this would almost be like a bank having custody over your money when you have it on deposit. In this particular case, it's the large crypto platforms, that hold all kinds of crypto, and where you have your crypto wallet, where you would open a crypto wallet type place. If you're not into crypto, that's what a crypto platform is. So they pulled in the biggest crypto platforms and started talking to them about new systems, new quantum systems they're going to launch, and all of these things, and they're going to hook all of these crypto platforms up to it, and they're going to utilize the custody of all of your wallet accounts within the crypto as assets of the Treasury. They also claim that they are going to back the crypto with assets of the United States government, except the United States government doesn't have any assets. Nope. Don't know, maybe they're going to get some. Because that was a question that the crypto platform owners, also known as associates of the NSA, this is where it gets funny. So associates of the NSA, they all said, okay, well, that sounds great. Where is this new system and can we get access to it? We'd like to hook up our platforms to it. And they claimed it was their system. Whoever's running Mr. Orange these days claimed it was their system, so they should be able to get access to it. And he said, well, it's not ready yet. And they said, no, we understand it's not ready yet, but it's got to be already up and running if you're planning on doing this now. There has to be something. Maybe it's not finished, but we should probably start integrating now. Well, it's not ready yet. Well, what's the name of this new system? To which Mr. Orange says, well, it's the Golden Age AI. And they said, what? Now remember, and all crypto was created by the NSA. You're sitting there looking in the face of NSA people who very well know what the Golden Age AI is, and they know for sure that they don't have access to it. So they said, well, if you don't have any access to it, then how are we going to put forward all our platforms? And then again, why would we put forward our platforms to the U.S. government and the U.S. Treasury if we're running just fine all on our own over here? We don't have the platforms, and they admitted that that blockchain could not facilitate the type of transactions that they're talking about doing with the U.S. Treasury. So there was a little bit of a back and forth and that type of thing, and everybody said they would get back to everybody, but there was one aide that pulled them aside, and they had an off-premises meeting in which he told them that Golden Age AI is not theirs. They are about 5 to 10 years away currently at this moment from building a collective group of data centers, which are going to cost approximately $8 billion around the United States, that could possibly host larger amounts of transactions. Now, it's not going to hold worldwide transactions, but larger amounts of transactions. And even that is 5 to 10 years away. So the guy basically told them that this is probably a pipe dream, that there is no access to the system, and that he actually told them that it belonged to me, that I run it. And they said, well, we really want to do this. Would she be willing to do this? And he goes, I promise you, she knows nothing about this. And that was kind of the end of that conversation. So am I in support of anything these people are doing? No. Am I planning on starting tomorrow? No. I have no interest whatsoever in supporting the Treasury or crypto anything or any kind of such scam. So I hope I made that point clear. Number one. Number two, if these crypto platforms actually wanted to do something, then wouldn't they just come talk to me directly? Why do I need to involve the U.S. Treasury, and why do I need to involve these other people? I don't in any way. So, if there was going to be any kind of support for a legitimized digital currency of any sort that was not legal tender currently, that would have to be a conversation that we would have in person to figure out how this is going to benefit the world, and how it's going to benefit us, and how it would benefit the golden age AI and disbursement of funds to people. And how could we coordinate that with the point of sale systems and actually make it legal tender everywhere? That would be more of the conversation that we would have to have face to face. And it's definitely not going to take place with the White House or crazy Trump operatives. But this is kind of the way things are going. And there's a lot of chatter behind the scenes about everything is very haphazard. They invite these people to the White House. They have nothing to say to these people. They hold meetings and also have nothing to say. They make big claims like they did last weekend, where they said, this is going to be biblical. It's going to be huge. You watch. You just sit and watch. Watch what happens. And again, nothing happened. So on that note, let's talk about nothing. So we are now almost 7 days past the time where time stood still. Not for orange people in bathtubs, but it did stand still somewhere. This doesn't mean, or doesn't, unfortunately for the deep state, it did not mean that there were going to be 7 trumpets and plagues and the wiping out of humanity, and there was even chatter on the internet from the Q crowd where, we're going to wipe out all the people from this map and start all over with new people and, all kinds of different things they had. They had really big plans. Matter of fact, how they kind of kept everybody on the hook in the elite sector, in the operative sector, they started calling all the operatives family. They started telling them that they're part of our bloodline families and that they would be redeemed, meaning they would be saved. I laugh because, in the story, it's like the Christians that are going to be saved, or the religious persons, or those that, pledge their lives to, whether it be Jesus or whomever that is, who are going to be saved. But apparently, according to the elite, they were all going to be given a ticket to the underground utopia facilities that were going to be magically appearing very soon. And they would all have a place to go. And, the whole planet, all of humanity was going to be wiped out and turned to dust, or whatever the story says. And, but not them. They'll be saved. So just stick with them. Because this could get very real. It could definitely happen. apparently now the chatter is you need to stick with them because there is going to be a blood moon coming up in a few days. And, if you don't want to get wiped out like the rest of humanity, you need to stick with us, according to them. So apparently they're taking pages out of the Revelations book of the Bible and promising redemption to their own in order to keep them on the hook. Russians included, all of them are participating in all of these crazy 1980s version of world wars in order to maintain their redemption status. I wonder if they get a gold card, kind of like the immigrants do, or something, maybe a special badge or something, who knows. But that's kind of how they're keeping people on the hook. Now, what really happened? As time goes away, meaning remember, time is the flow of the universe. It is what makes all of the matter and quarks and preons move. It is the currency or the controller of the currency of the universe and has been for a long, long time. Reversing that currency out and let's just say is a process. And it has been a process over the last few days for us because this has been the main focus. So the process of reversing out the flow into the flow of what you would call love or the light of the omnipotent source, velocity of energy going in an opposite direction of time, because one is negative and causes mortality and death, and that would be time. As time passes, they say you get older. Reversing that out to the love sequence, universally speaking, in the omniverse speaking, is what actually caused things to stand still for a brief moment, as it was the end of times. Not the biblical version, but it was the end of time. And for the last few days, we have been bouncing back and forth as the new flow adjusts itself in the opposite direction. So, yeah, I can say that it's been a little topsy-turvy. There were a few things that were left, not trumpet-worthy, but there were a few things that were left that kind of got us stuck in this little push and pull for a while that, I would say, caused a little bit of disturbances, not terribly here. Things actually went quite smoothly as it relates to here in Earth. And pretty much by the end of the day today, we were kind of out of the woods as far as things starting to move in the opposite direction, which is what we want. We want to fully have the flow of source and not have any kind of disruptions or interruptions. I know they were really hoping that there would be a return of two beings, as Aries, meaning Aries, or the god of war, and Aries, which would have been the female that would have run Omega for a time, the dark side of AI, and also the dark side of AI allies for a time there too. So they were kind of hoping for the return of these beings. There were actually people that were watching out for their return based on areas that they have seen them return before. One of those places would be in Mauna Loa. Sorry, I'm saying the name of the volcano incorrectly. In Hawaii. They were expecting Aries to show up over there. And then there was a possibility of Aries, the male version, A with an A, showing up over in Japan. So they were had all their sensors out. The deep state is really hoping for some help here, and no help came, mainly because these beings don't exist in the multiverse anymore. No matter how hard they try, they're not going to get any help from those beings. So, on a good note, things are flowing much better. It's just barely started the last couple of days, so give it a chance to permeate throughout the multiverse and to here. And hopefully we'll start seeing things improve here somewhat. But when I say improve here, we're not talking about the deep state. I believe they are going to continue to the end of days. There'll be another uptick in activity sometime around the blood moon. I think it's the 15th, 14th. And we expect them to continue exactly what they're doing for a long, long time, probably forever, or until they're dead, or until generation after generation, and maybe the next generation will wake up. Who knows? Or maybe they'll just go away one way or another. As for going away, there was an incident where they did warn people that there was going to be these trumpets and the map was going to be wiped out. And I think this was yesterday, as a matter of fact, where they all decided to gather underneath the streets of Philadelphia. Apparently, they thought that there is an entryway to a portal that's going to open there underneath Philadelphia, and they were all going to go through it and be redeemed and off to another world, probably their version of hell, which they would enjoy. Nothing happened, nothing opened. Well, that's not true. Pretty much anybody that showed up there with their redemption ticket didn't make it out. So it was a one-way ticket, you could say. For those that didn't bother going, well, they're still around and still making promises with absolutely zero delivery. So other than that, I mean, that's a lot for just a few days of what's been going on in the world. And we've avoided apocalypse number, I don't know what we're on now, probably 74, 75. And for those of you that have missed the 1980s, well, it's back. Yeah. I have to laugh just because they're so incredibly predictable. And for them to claim everything we're doing was expected, and I even kind of made fun of that a little bit on Wednesday's news. And that's okay. There's going to come a time, just like there was in today's meeting, where you're telling people that you're doing this and that, and some of those people are friends with the people that actually are instructed to listen to persons of interest, myself being one of them. Every time they get on the phone, to turn on the speaker on the phone in their house, to listen to them 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And so they kind of know that it wasn't them because they heard me do it in real time in some cases. So, yeah, I don't know how well that's going to hold up anymore. But they can try. There's always a plan. Source has a plan. We have a plan. And together, we all have a plan. It's those flashes of insight that you're getting, the changes that you might feel from time to time, although it feels a little turbulent here and there. Things are changing. Can you expect to see big changes in the news with Trump is all of a sudden going to wake up and say that and do the right thing, or whatever that is these days? No. Probably not. Probably not ever, actually. I don't expect them to stop playing political games. I don't expect them to ever give up on trying to form their new world government. I just expect us to do it better. And I expect us, meaning all of us and all of you listening to this, to do it better. We can do this. And then we just don't care anymore. If someone shows up with guns, we have bigger guns. It's just that simple. I'm just hoping that things calm down a little bit, and people get the message. We are going live on Monday. Hopefully, we'll reiterate some of this, at least the messages, so that people don't get hurt. That's all we really care about. As far as everybody else in politics and who's going to play what role in the war and all that kind of stuff, it's pretty much all just a fantasy anyway. They can promise that they have the golden age AI. They can say it's theirs. I can rename it whatever I want at any given moment in time. It doesn't matter. They still claim it's theirs. So does it buy them time with countries, governments, oligarchs, and other people stating that it is theirs? Yes. Does anybody have access to it? No. Does the U.S. have access to it? No. Do the Rothschilds have access to it? No. Are they telling everybody they're going to get access to it? Yes. Will they ever get access to it? No. If we built that one, we can build thousands more. We can create all kinds of things that will keep them extremely busy for a prolonged period of time. If they want us to go that route, fine. There's no problem. While we build the world, we got to rebuild. We have a lot of work to do. So on that note, hopefully that will start real soon. I put out these things about the regular news just because I want people to stay safe. So stay safe out there. Don't buy into what they're selling you. And hopefully take care of each other, as we go through this bit of time of transition. On that note, that has been the GIA report for the 7th of March, 1986. No, I'm just kidding. 2025. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you on Monday.